Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good afternoon. It's always difficult to follow the digital futurist, Javed Iqbal. I don't know if he's still here. Did he leave? That was a great talk. Thank you so much, Javed. Javed came to AKU, I think, last year or maybe 2 years back and gave us a very exciting look into the future. And it was great to hear him again this time. So I would like to thank the organizers of this conference for giving me an opportunity to talk about some of the work that we've been doing at the Aga Khan University over the past few years. And the work that I will be talking to you about today is not work that I've done alone. It represents a whole team, and my team is over here as well. And so I would like to acknowledge my team for helping me get to this stage, and this is for you. Okay, so what I want to do over the next 15 or 20 minutes or so is to quickly give you or describe to you the burden of disease in Pakistan. And obviously I could spend the whole 20 minutes or an hour or several hours talking about the burden of disease in Pakistan, but just to kind of quickly give you the stark reality, and it'll just be one slide, and I think you'll get the picture. Talking about the burden of disease in Pakistan will help me segue into the need for innovation in healthcare. And I won't have to belabor the points because my colleagues over here have already delved into this a lot more. And I don't think I'll have to spend several minutes explaining to you why we need to innovate and do it fast. The majority of my talk is going to be delving into the work that we've been doing at the Aga Khan University. I will try to explain to you why we've done it and some of the activities that we have delved into. And all of those then inform the challenges that we've had. The challenges themselves become opportunities for future growth, and those then inform our future directions. So, none of you over here should be surprised to hear about the immense burden of disease of this country. Currently, Pakistan ranks third in the world for under 5 mortality. So these are small children under 5 years of age that are dying in huge numbers. Pregnancy and childbirth-related issues are among the leading causes of death amongst women, particularly the 15 to 45-year age range. There's a huge surgical inequity or disparity. Several people, actually scores of people in rural Pakistan cannot access good surgical care. There is the triple burden of disease in Pakistan. So by that I mean the communicable or infectious diseases that we are still struggling with, and that's a huge issue. Somebody mentioned polio and the lack of immunization. That's a huge problem for Pakistan. That was part of the panel discussion earlier. Those are your communicable or infectious diseases. Because of the change in lifestyle over the past 1 or 2 decades, we've started seeing more and more of non-communicable diseases such as heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, and so on. If these problems weren't enough for Pakistan, think about trauma. We don't have good trauma control or trauma prevention or injury prevention mechanisms in this country. So we have to deal with road traffic accidents, and we have to deal with intentional injuries such as suicidality, such as terrorism, violence, and so on. So that's the triple burden of disease in Pakistan. All of these leads to a lot of burden, not just on the whole country itself. Obviously, it does that too, but on the individual, on the family, on hospitals and clinics, on the health system itself. So is healthcare innovation really needed? I might even skip this slide because the answer to this is a resounding yes. It is needed, but I'll still make a few points over here. So we need to innovate our own way, because simply importing technology from the West or high-income countries and then expecting it to work for us in low-middle-income countries, LMICs, is simply not enough. We have our own potential to innovate by improvisation or adaptation. And how many people over here have heard of this word, jugaad? How many people, with a show of hands, how many people have jugaad today? over the past 5 minutes. Now, just joking, how many people have jugaad on a daily basis? Living in Karachi, we jugaad pretty much every day. We've got to jugaad to survive. That's innovation. It's been written about, and we are particularly good at that. Now, there's this concept of trickle-up innovation. Hackathons and other activities enable local innovators to develop their own solutions to problems of their own communities. One good example is of Africa, which has skipped landlines and has gone straight to wireless technology. This is just one example among several examples out there for Africa alone. So another example could be things that we've learned over here in third world countries, and those are being adapted by North America, because lady health visitor programs or community health worker programs, for instance, have shown to improve health outcomes for our communities, and now the US is also adapting some of those lady health visitors or community health workers in their own health prevention campaigns. So the low middle income countries such as Pakistan are in a unique position. We are certainly resource limited, but we are not innovation limited. We've got great jugaad potential. And I would like to quote over here Lord Nigel Crisp, the former CEO of the National Health Services of the UK. And he says, rich countries can learn a great deal about health and human services from poorer ones. Combining the learning from rich and poor countries can give us new insight on how to improve health. And by this, we mean global health, because we've got to work towards a global economy, and everyone's health needs to improve, not just people in Pakistan, but in the rest of the world as well. The next few slides, I will delve into the why and how of instilling creativity and innovation at the Aga Khan University. So when I moved back to Karachi, and I don't have the time to tell you my story, but about 5.5 to 6 years ago, when I moved back to Karachi, and I started working with lots of students, medical students and nursing students, and young trainees, residents, and young faculty at the Aga Khan University, I felt that there tended to be a lot of emphasis on what to think versus how to think. And along with that, there is this increasing standardization of medical systems. There is this overemphasis on data, and I know we love our data. I'm a clinical researcher. I love my data, and there are data scientists in this audience, so nothing against data. But it's been documented, it's been studied as well, when there's a lot of emphasis on data and evidence all the time, it tends to inhibit your natural curiosity, your imagination, critical thinking, creativity potential, and all of these inhibit innovation in turn. And then this leads to a tunnel vision. So what is the sweet spot? Where do we need to be? This is an envisioned biomedical space of the future, which is actually already here. So we want people to feel very comfortable. Doesn't matter whether you're junior or senior, whether you're a teacher or a student, we're all here to learn about improving our health. It's transgenerational. So the young and the old working together in interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary teams. I think that this is probably the optimal situation to be in, and that's what we've been pushing for. And the group that I'm representing is called Critical Creative Innovative Thinking, CCIT Forum at the Aga Khan University. It's quite a mouthful, but I'll tell you what the big picture is over here. And this laser doesn't seem to be working, but anyways, so critical thinking underpins, sorry, I get very excited when I present this particular model. So critical thinking underpins all of this process, as you can see on the bottom of this, along this spectrum. But on one side of this, towards the left, there are creative thought processes. Now, creativity as a standalone through writing, music, art and design, photography has been shown to impact health care and people's health. Innovative thought when it moves to a more tangible outcome through an innovation, for example, process reengineering, an app, a device, drug R&D, for instance, then we're talking about in order to sustain that, we're looking for or talking about incubators and accelerators. So we start moving more and more towards the right side of this. Obviously, as we go along this spectrum, the amount of funding or budgets that we need go up tremendously. We've been working along this spectrum over the past 4 years or so, and we have evidence, for those who love evidence, that this can work. Creativity can work as a standalone, as can innovation as a standalone too. So the next few slides, I'm going to talk about some of the more interesting things that we've done at the Aga Khan University. And I will talk about hackathons, particularly medical hackathons or healthcare hackathons, and the post-hackathon incubation process that we have started at AKU. So how many people are familiar with hackathons? This is a digital techie group. I'm still very few hands. So I'll very simply explain to you what a hackathon is first. So in a hackathon, a team of interdisciplinary professionals or non-professionals for that matter come together and they solve problems in real time. So the problems are identified by the participants or the hackers. The hackathon could have a specific theme, as happened in the case of AKU, or it could be something generic. It could be a community-based or a civic hackathon in which you are trying to solve various problems of the city. So those have also happened in Karachi. So I would highly recommend that if most of you have never attended a hackathon, do participate. It's a lot of fun. So our hackathons at AKU are about 2.5-day event. It tends to be over the course of a weekend. I'll give you just 2 examples over here. So this was our attempt to come up with the next generation children's hospital or children's tower at AKU. So we envisioned what kind of features of a children's hospital should be in place so that we are able to take care of pediatric patients or children better. So what better way than to include children themselves or pediatric patients to come and hack the problems of pediatrics. And this was one of the best events, most fun events, and the mini hackathon around this with the children was called the Hackathon. And the other example I want to give over here is of emergency medicine. So this hackathon got a lot of traction from this particular journal. It's called Annals of Emergency Medicine. It's one of the main journals of the field of emergency medicine. And they liked the problem pitch, this one in particular, and I'm going to talk about it a bit more in a subsequent slide. This was a crude prototype that was developed at the hackathon in 2.5 days by a very driven team. And nobody in that team was an engineer. So doctors and students came up with this particular hack. Okay, so this is just a comparison of the 4 major hackathons we've had at AKU over the past 3 years. So 2016, 17, 18, and 19. So 17, 18, 19, 3 years, yes, and 4 hackathons. And each column over here represents one specific hackathon with the theme mentioned at the top. So I just want you to focus your attention to the predominant age category over here. These are the young people, the millennials and the post-millennials perhaps. So the panel discussion earlier was really interesting because one of our esteemed panelists spoke about the importance of engaging with the millennials. I would say we have to go past and start engaging with the post-millennials as well. These are the people who are driven, who are passionate, who want to make a difference, and they're the ones who come out to the hackathons in huge numbers. The other thing, a shout out to all the women innovators and entrepreneurs. Our hackathons have demonstrated that women tend to be the ones who come out to these events in bigger, larger numbers. Perhaps they're more attuned to the problems of the nation and of health systems or healthcare problems. So thank you, women out in the audience and those at home. Okay, so I'm not going to go over the rest of those numbers, but what we felt was that that we were hackathons, but once the teams had done their bit, gone to their busy work after a 2.5-day event, we couldn't really follow up with those teams. So then we came to the concept of the incubation program, the Incubator, and this had the 3 main objectives of growing creative and innovative ideas to business potential and impact, to develop a mentorship network, to to help these teams develop further and to strengthen multidisciplinary linkages across Pakistan. And we showed that by having an incubator at AKU, we could take some of those hackathon-based ideas to early-stage ideation further along on that spectrum. I want to talk about two particular examples of the hackathons. This one was particularly sobering from the team's potential. So what happens in emergency rooms in Pakistan, especially the government hospital-based EDs, ERs, or the rural settings, if a patient, a child, or an adult stops breathing, a breathing tube needs to be placed. And then we have ready access to ventilators in the emergency rooms. So a person has to actually manually bag this patient, so provide oxygen through the bag that you can see in blue. Unfortunately, most cases in rural settings and in low-resource hospitals, the parent or the patient's attendant has to provide oxygen through that bagging process. So this particular team wanted to hack that problem. They came up with this model over a 2.5-day hackathon, this crude prototype, and that prototype was taken up by the Aga Khan Development Network Digital Health Resource Center, or DHRC, and they've taken it further to a prototype stage. Patent has been filed both in the US and in Pakistan, and it's ready to be piloted. So that's a great example of a hackathon innovation all the way to incubation and beyond. The other example I want to give over here is of this particular team called Render, and the problem was simple. So this is a student-led, student-centric team, and the problem was that they wanted to do, when students want to do research, they don't know which faculty members are doing research work and what is the theme of their research studies. So they came up with this matching algorithm where students could put in their own profile of their research interest, and faculty could also put in their profiles of what research work they were doing, and this was a matching app. So like the famous dating app that I will not name over here, this is a take on that. So instead of that other name, this is Rinder, and the tagline is pretty cool: don't swipe left for love, swipe right for research. So this is a very medical education, medical research-centric that is creating a lot of interest at AKU and outside of AKU as well. Okay, so very quickly, what is the incubate status? So I'm just mentioning 6 of these incubates. We have more. The others are in even a pre-incubation stage, I would say. But suffice it to say that these teams are in various stages of incubation. Some of them, well, actually most of them have found some amount of seed funding from AKU, because AKU is taking a lot of these processes very seriously. And one of them I mentioned is in the testing stage, but we are getting ready to start testing the others as well as soon as their prototyping is done. So we've had 4 years of impact. Hackathons and incubation is something that I've mentioned to you. We've done other things, and I want you to get bored with this particular slide, but we've done a lot of things. But what that points to is that there are challenges because of the work that we are doing, and these are novel events, but those challenges also inform a future direction. So very briefly, events, when you do them in a traditional kind of an academic medical university, it becomes somewhat of an uphill task. We've got to work with various mindsets. You have to keep in mind traditional currency to be research publications, research grants. So when people start talking about incubates, patents, and those kinds of processes and intellectual property, then how does that get credited for the person who's doing that work versus more research? So that's a very interesting discussion that we are engaging with at AKU and outside of AKU. So this is not novel to AKU, by the way. And then intellectual property ownership related issues. What all of this speaks to is this need for a culture system of innovation, that we need a lot of help, a lot of facilitation from people from outside of AKU as well. And this is the ever-expanding ecosystem that CCIT is part of. We are not doing this in solo. So at the bottom of this figure, you can see local and as well as domestic partners. And a shout out to people over here. We've got Jahan sitting over here from Nest.io. We've got Faisal. We've gone and seen his setup in Peshawar. Sarah is on this, but Sehat Kahani, we've learned a lot from Sara and her team as well. We've got the national NICs across Pakistan that we have visited and learned from, and are in the process of learning more from them. Three particular people that teams I want to mention: Harvard, MIT. So the MIT folks, Hacking Medicine Initiative, have provided us with their SOPs for running hackathons in Karachi. So they've been great supporters of what we are doing over here. Ryerson University is a Toronto-based university, very interesting model of incubation for their undergrads. And they came and assessed Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad for their innovation and incubation spaces about 2 months. So a lot of learning from that. And then there's Habib University. Students of computer science and engineering have come to us at AKU asking for mentorship, healthcare-related mentorship, so that they can be facilitated in their final year projects. So a great burgeoning partnership with Habib University. And then last but not the least that I want to mention right now is Pharma and Open, and gratitude to Zaki, because it was because of his interest that AKU signed an MOU last year with both Pharma and Open, and we're opening ourselves up to this particular kind of a dialogue and narrative. So anyways, this is pretty much the last slide, I think. Yes, I think maybe one more after this. But so when I talk about the potential impact of a collaborative health innovation mission, I am not talking about AKU in a silo. I'm talking about all the people over here. I'm talking about all the NICs across Pakistan and other incubators and accelerators. Those that are up and coming and the startups, we are all part of this ever-expanding ecosystem. I'm talking about people from outside of Pakistan as well that we are communicating with. We do need to move more towards a robust private partnership. If we have to decrease morbidity and mortality and to meet the target sustainable development goals of the WHO, we've got to work together. A lot of teaching and learning happens in these processes, and we are able to influence mindsets for the 21st century skills of creativity, critical thinking, innovation, entrepreneurship, and so on. Better community engagement, such as including kids, children in your hackathons, for instance. This gets you on track of creating citizen scientists. This was the title of my talk. But I think the question that one has to ask is, what is conventional medical wisdom? You've got to know that before addressing before it. So I can give you my take on things. So conventional medical wisdom might get us to focus on traditional academic research kind of processes that might help us figure out or solve the immense issues of Pakistan's healthcare. That would be more of a traditionalist approach, in my opinion. We have reached a stage where disruption and innovation, because of that disruption, becomes allies to lead to sustainable improvement in health of our population. So I think we're in a very exciting phase. We want to keep dialoguing to come out of that traditional academic workplace and work with these kinds of startups and incubators and accelerators, and together we can have much more of a lasting impact on health and disease. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening.